A meeting to order, do roll call. Ben?
Here.
Hayden?
Here.
Sherry?
Here.
Vernon?
Here.
Ty?
Here.
Show all fives here, please. Everybody, please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chief, I want to wish you and your fellow officers our condolences up here for your fallen officer this week. So if everybody would please join me in a moment of silence for the fallen Fairway officer, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Chief and officers, again, every one of you, our condolences. Thank you for everything you do for us in this town. We appreciate it. And if you ever need anything at all, please come to us and let us know.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
May I add something?
absolutely.
To the officers,
Officers,
as a retired federal law enforcement officer, I never knew when I went out on assignment if I would ever make it home. You guys be safe out there.
thank you. Absolutely. Before we get the meeting started, we have a guest here tonight. Senator Pittman, would you like to address the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. First, I want to thank each and every one of you for your service. I, as myself, a public servant, you're public servants. I understand it's an honor, but it's also a sacrifice for you and your family. So I appreciate each one of your service. I've given you each my business card, except for you, Hayden. I'm sorry, I'll get it to you. I am the state senator. Prior to the redistricting, Basehor was not in my area. And with the redistricting, it's now been brought into my area. I used to have Bonner Springs and Edwardsville. I also cover Piper out through the Legends and up through Lansing, Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth. So with this new addition to my territory, I want to make sure I'm here and I'm present with you guys. I want you to know I'm always available for your calls. I might call on you as part of my legislative, as we're in session. There are a lot of bills that come up that do affect our cities in Leavenworth. Myself, I've worked personally on the Commerce Committee to help get that Panasonic plant, knowing that while it's great for development, it also brings growing pains that you guys are feeling just like the rest of my district. Helped with the housing initiatives that brought $30 million into our state to help with housing. And we know that housing and workforce development is a big issue, and you guys are taking the brunt of it with your growth and Basehor. So there are a huge number of tax issues, tax policies. We're initiating, in the Senate, we just passed one of the bills that I helped sponsor, which was the cap on property tax assessments to 4% year over year, which, mine are going up 10, 15, 20% each year over the last 3 years. And you guys can't do anything about that. I understand the pain, it's the assessment, but it's something where we need to come up with something that makes it a little bit more gradual, right? So all those are types of things that I'm working on. I am from Leavenworth, but I want you to know I'm here to help represent Basehor. I think that community partnership, we are a growing region, Northeast region. We are a powerhouse of Kansas. And when we work together across party lines, across levels of government, across public, private, we are stronger together. And I really believe that. And I hope that you'll be a part of this journey. We can work together. I'm proposed to the mayor that I might get on the agenda in the next 4 or 5 months before our session starts in January. And what we can do is I can just review. It wouldn't be more than 15, 30 minutes if you wanted to keep it short, but review some of the things that came up during the session this year and things you should be aware of. And then also get your feedback in terms of what you might have as top priorities that you want to focus on as a council. We could do that after the elections. I know you might not want to do it. I don't want to get all involved in that, but it might be better to have it afterwards. So we have the voices of the city council moving forward. Maybe in December, but we can always do something before that. So I just want you to know I'm there for you for anything. And I'm just reaching out to say hi and make sure I'm now your new senator. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Sir.
Very nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Have a good one. Call to the public. Public comment will be allowed at the mayor's discretion. This is exclusive of items requiring a public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. As a reminder to the public and the city council members alike, the city council and staff will not engage in a dialogue or debate with any speaker pertaining to any comments made. Members of the public wishing to speak must keep their comments germane or relevant to the specific item before the council. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor. Remember to state your name and address for the record. If you're online and would like to participate, please type your name in the chat room and wait to be recognized before unmuting and speaking. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on any item tonight at this point? Okay, is there anybody online? Okay. All right, then moving on, we'll go on, start the regular meeting. Consent agenda, need a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the consent agenda as printed.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Ty.
Aye.
Vernon.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Shows a 5-0. Item A, resolution 2023-22 architectural design standards deviations, Dollar Tree.
Right.
Okay, just 1, 2. Item number 2, acceptance of bench donation from Ron and Darlene Grover for Metro Green Trail.
Thank you, Mayor. Maddie Waldek, Assistant City Administrator. We have some very special guests here with us tonight. As you're very well aware, with the Metro Green Trail project and 155th Street, I had the distinct honor of working with property owners in the corridor. Ron and Darlene Grover were 2 of the property owners that I had the honor of working with. And it's honestly been a joy to work with them and their family throughout this process. To be sitting here and saying that we negotiated successfully an easement with a property owner and they wanted to donate a bench in their family's honor to support the project is really just honestly took our breath away. And so throughout this process, they've told me some of the history of the property. I've really gotten to know them and their family. And they approached the city and wanted to formally donate $1,500 for a bench right in front of the property that they own along the Metro Green Trail in honor of Robert and Dora Miller. We've got the design bench included in your packet as well as the location. And I told Ron and Darlene that they are more than welcome to say a few words if they would like. So if you would like to at this moment, come up to the podium and say a few words and whatever you'd like to say. And then at that time, Mayor, we'd invite you and the council down to formally accept the donation and take a few pictures with their family.
Okay.
My family and I wanted to donate a celebration of life bench in honor of my dad and mom, Robert and Dora Miller. They moved out here in 1977. They fell in love with Basser and made it their home until the end of their life. My mom died in 1992 of ovarian cancer, but my dad remained here until he died in April of this year. He loved cows, so if you ever drove along Parallel, there's always been cows there, and even currently we still have cows there. He was a proud VFW member of the Basser VFW. He started and provided the truck for the parades, our Baser parades and the Leavenworth parades when they had the VFW. Any parades that we had, he always got that started and always wanted to be part of that. And then before the parades, if you remember, we put the flags on the utility poles and he was always, come get my truck. I'm going to take you. You guys put them up and I'm going to be the driver. So he always loved doing all of that type of stuff. And since his house was on Parallel and right beside this high school, he would listen to the Friday night football games. And of course, his favorite thing was 4th of July. He could see it from the back porch. So because he loved to sit, we thought that a bench would honor him and be a good memory for him and my mom. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here at this time, if you and the council would consider a motion to formally accept the donation, and then at that time, we would invite everybody down to take a picture with Ron and Darlene and their family.
Okay, I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept with much gratitude from the city of Baser, the donation of $1,500 from Ron and Darlene Grover for the purpose of constructing a memorial bench as presented.
Have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Vernon? Aye. Sherry?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Ty? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Aaron, we'll do a picture with you receiving the check, and then we'll do a group picture with everybody.
Okay.
Okay, look right here. Kathy. Okay, now everybody together. Oh, just one more. Everybody together. We actually need to have some chairs at the front, maybe, or sit down, or whatever you need to do. Yep, there we go. Hey, we got it. We did it. Perfect. Thank you. See you along. There you go.
You want me to give you that?
Sure. Gotta get some money, right? Good seeing this one just out. Absolutely.
I love that idea.
Is that you?
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't let it.
Hold on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, resolution 2023-23. A resolution of governing body of the city of Baser, Kansas, determining that the city is considering establishing a redevelopment district within the city, establishing the date and time of a public hearing on such a matter, and providing for the giving of notice of such public hearing. Baser Town Center redevelopment. Pete?
Mayor and council, good evening. Tonight, we're considering the first step in several in the creation of a TIF district. And the first step we need to take, if you choose to do so, is to set a public hearing. And at that public hearing, we will get testimony from the public, and we'll consider whether or not what we call Baser Town Center is eligible for TIF. If in fact it's eligible, in your opinion, you may create a TIF district. There's nothing binding about tonight. We're just setting a date for a hearing. So your vote on this resolution does not indicate your vote on the TIF district. We will also send notice to the county and to the school district and all affected property owners. Although I think the city is pretty much the only property owner of the area. But if you choose to take the next step, we'll have a hearing on September 13th at 6 o'clock. And in between now and then, we will be supplying you the evidence we believe supports the creation of a TIF district for Baser Town Center. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions for Pete? Vernon?
No.
Sherry?
No, I know we've been talking about it for a while, so thank you, Pete.
Ben?
Not specific to this, no.
No, I have no questions.
No, appreciate the quick turnaround. Keep us moving.
I think we're good.
Good.
That was easy, wasn't it?
So far, so good.
Yeah. Okay.
Need a motion.
Oh, okay. Need a motion for September the 13th?
Yes, which the motion does not include that. Need to proposed motion.
Yes, but your motion is to move to.
The resolution, which includes it. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would move, we approve resolution 2023-23, a resolution of the governing body of the city of Baser, Kansas, determining that the city is considering establishing a redevelopment district within the city, establishing the date and time of a public hearing on such matter, and providing for the giving of notice of such public hearing.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I'll call for a vote. Ty?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to item number 4, ordinance number 884, standard traffic ordinance, STO.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you is really for the approval of an ordinance adopting the most recent version of the standard traffic ordinances for Kansas cities that is published by the League of Kansas Municipalities annually, and the city adopts it annually. So I've listed the changes here in the memo for you. There were only 3, and they are in direct response to legislative changes that are made as well. As stated in the memo, these changes will be shared with the police department so that they are up to speed on what changes were made to the STO booklets that they use when they're performing enforcement within the city. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Hayden?
None. Thank you.
Ben?
Good, thank you.
Sherry?
Mm.
Vernon?
No.
I need a motion on number 884.
Mr. Mayor, I moved we adopt the ordinance 884, adopting the 2023 standard traffic ordinance 50th edition.
Have a motion to have a second.
I would second.
Have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Hayden?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Ty?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Moving on to ordinance number 885, Uniform Public Offense Code, UPOC.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is very similar to the previous one. It is merely adopting the most recent version of the Uniform Public Offense Code that we use here in Baser in our municipal court. There are many more changes to this than there were in the standard traffic ordinances, but I've listed them here in the memo as well. And the city of Baser also omits itself from certain provisions of the UPOC for short. Those are listed out in the code. For example, domestic battery, stalking, sex offenses, those are reserved for district court. Those cases are referred out to the larger court and are not handled here in municipal court. Otherwise, it's really standard and annual update as stated. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Vernon?
No question.
No question. Sherry?
No questions.
Questions? Thank you, Mayor.
Nope. Okay, no questions. I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 885, adopting the 2023 Uniform Public Offense Code for Kansas City's 39th edition.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Ben,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Vernon,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Moving on to ordinance number 6, ordinance number 886, regulation of fireworks discharge.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. What you have before you is the result of much discussion over the discharge of fireworks within the city limit base or the ordinance that is in front of you, 866. The only change is to move from June 30th through July 5th. The change will be July 1st through July 4th that will allow you to legally discharge fireworks within the city limits base.
Anybody have any questions for Chief?
No, a lot of discussion on it last week or last time.
Thanks. Good. Thank you, sir. I need a motion.
Mayor, this is Sherry, and I would move to approve ordinance number 886 as ordinance of the city of Basehor, Kansas, amending chapter 4, article 4, section 20-156 of the code of the city of Basehor, Kansas, pertaining to the discharge of fireworks during certain days of the year and repealing existing sections 20-156 of the city code.
A motion to have a second,
I'll second.
a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Vernon.
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 7, project authorization agreement between the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, and the city of Basehor, Kansas for civic campus trails, KDOT project number N-0773-01.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your packet for your consideration is an agreement between the city of Basehor and KDOT for the Civic Campus Trails project. As a reminder, we were awarded $1.24 million in grant dollars to fund that project. KDOT is, we work collaboratively with KDOT and the Mid-America Regional Council to be able to let those projects and ultimately construct those projects. In order for us to move forward, this agreement is required. So included in your packet is the agreement for your consideration, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions for Maddie? Hayden?
Nope. Good to be another step closer.
Ty?
No.
Ben?
Good, thank you.
Sherry?
No comments, just thanks for everybody's hard work on it.
Vernon?
No comment.
Okay. Well, good. Thank you. I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the mayor to execute the project authorization agreement between Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, and the city of Basehor, Kansas for Civic Campus Trails, KDOT project number N-0773-01.
I have a motion to hear a second,
I'll second.
a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Ty?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 8, do we need an executive session?
You're not, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Call for an adjournment to the regular meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn the regular meeting.
Have a motion to hear a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's exciting. And moving right on into the work session, agenda items, item number 1, 2024 budget presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. We have another budget presentation for this evening. If we go to the next slide. This is budget presentation number 7 of 8. Just as a reminder, we mention the budget or do a presentation regarding the budget pretty much consistently throughout the last several months. And on the next slide, I believe that I had, can we go to the next slide? Just information about how the community can stay involved with the budget process. This is just a recap of all the efforts that we put together. The 7 budget presentations that have been made are in public meetings. They're available in person at City Hall. You can join via Zoom. If you're not able to attend Zoom or in person, you can also see it on YouTube. It's recorded and people can view it as their time is available. We notice the public meetings several different ways on the city's website, where members of the community can go online and sign up for notifications, whether text or email. We put it in the city's e-news. We put it in the Basehor Quarterly Newsletter, on the social media pages that the city of Basehor has. And then any public hearings in addition to all of those are noticed in the Leavenworth Times and or the Tonganoxie Mirror. And then with Councilmember Maple's suggestion, which has really been a great tool in communicating with the public, we have cataloged all of our budget presentations on our website. So if folks don't want to view it on the YouTube and they just want to look at the PowerPoint, they absolutely have the ability to do that now moving forward. And I've linked that in the presentation. Next slide. Since last meeting, Leslie and I attended a webinar regarding the local ad valorem tax reduction fund. And I have a few updates, but just kind of wanted to remind the public what this is. This is a requirement set in state statute that essentially says a certain percentage of sales tax revenues that are due to the state should be redistributed back to local cities and counties. And those dollars should be used to lower the property tax rate in those jurisdictions. The state of Kansas has exempted itself from that requirement from 2001 to 2024. They had some numbers on the call. The total amount due to the local jurisdictions is 3.5 billion with a B. That is due to the local municipalities and local counties to provide property tax support that the state of Kansas has exempted itself during that time. Next slide. So what does that mean for the city of Basehor? We've shown this slide before, but just as a reminder, the blue line is the sales tax dollars that the city of Basehor has received from our 1% general citywide sales tax. And then on the right, you can see the chart. If with those calculations, that is the amount that would be due back to the city of Basehor if the LAVTRF would be funded. So you can see the running total just in the last 10 years is $1.4 million. And then on the next slide, we have what that means as it relates to mills for each particular year. This is not a cumulative total, but just a snapshot of each year. If that would be funded, what this governing body would be able to reduce the mill rate by if those dollars were to be received. Some feedback that we heard in the conference call was that the legislators are concerned that some municipalities or governments would not use that for property tax reduction. And we really feel like with the direction that we're headed, which is adopting a formal position that if this were to be funded, 100% of those funds would go to property tax reduction. That would eliminate some of those concerns. During the conference call, they really talked a lot about how the relationship between the state legislators and the local governing bodies is really strained at this point. And so they're doing a lot of work to try to repair that. And also Leavenworth County did announce in the meeting that they are filing a class action lawsuit if the legislators do not fund LAVTRF at the end of the next session. So just a few quick updates from that. The Kansas Association of Counties had some great materials out there, including some informational videos that we circulated to the governing body just about what this is, what's going on with it. I think a lot of folks don't know about it. And so we're just glad to keep involved and keep the governing body informed about what's going on. Next slide. So just a reminder of some tax terminology. Ad valorem tax is property tax. The mill rate is the property tax rate. One mill in the city of Basehor generates about $130,000, giving our assessed value of $130 million. And then the tax levy is just the revenue that the city generates by applying the mill rate to the assessed value. Next slide. A reminder of the funds that we have in the city. We have the governmental activity funds, and those are funded primarily by property tax. We have our capital project and equipment funds that are primarily funded by sales tax. Our enterprise funds, which are funded by the utility charges or fees for service. We have two fiduciary funds that the city holds those dollars, but are not controlled by the city in any way. And then we have a few special funds that have specific restrictions about the revenues and expenditures of those funds. Next slide. These are the 2024 budget priorities that were established by this governing body. We made a few changes to the previous year, and we really feel like they encapsulate the direction of the city very well. Basir is advancing trails and parks projects. We are a place where we take pride in our community and its safety. We are improving, modernizing, and maintaining the roads. We are proposing no tax rate increase. We are a desirable place to live, work, and grow a business, and we are continuing to promote fiscal transparency and stewardship. Next slide. This is a reminder of, for every $1 of property taxes paid in the city of Basir, where do those dollars go? 23 cents go to the city, 25 cents goes to Leavenworth County, 41 cents to the school district, about 1 cent to the state, 5 cents to the Basir Community Library, and 5 cents to Fairmount Township Fire. Now, recently, the Leavenworth County Clerk did mail out notice of the 2024 local ad valorem rates, and that includes what each taxing entity's proposed mill rate is and what is the proportionate impact to each homeowner. Just very quickly, a recap of the information that we received. The Basir Community Library is electing to adopt the revenue neutral rate. So their mill rate will go down about 1 mil. The city, the Leavenworth County, the state, and Fairmount Township Fire are electing at this point to flat mill rate, no increase or no decrease. And then the school district is increasing by about 1 mil. Next slide. Additional analysis of cities of the third class. And again, thank you, Councilmember Stanford, for sending this information from the Kansas League of Municipalities. There are 503 cities of the third class in the state of Kansas, and their average property tax rate is just shy of 49 mils. Ours is 33.873. And so that's significantly lower than the average. When we rank those 503 cities of the third class from the highest mill rate to the lowest mill rate, the city of Basir is 339 out of 503, so significantly towards the lower end. And just as a reminder, the city did take formal action in 2022 to remain a city of the third class. Next slide. So regardless of class, when we look at cities that have similar populations to ours from 6,000 to 8,000, there are 12 cities that fit that population class, and their average mill rate is 44.022 mils. So again, we're significantly lower. And then when we rank them again from the lowest mill rate to the highest mill rate, highest mill rate to the lowest mill rate, excuse me, we are 10 out of 12 or second from the lowest. Next slide. We did see some comments and some questions in social media chatter about the average mill rate in the county. We saw some comments about how Leavenworth County taxes are the highest in the state. And I certainly don't want to mischaracterize the motive of those questions. It could just be that they don't know. It could be they want, some fear mongering. There's different types of possibilities of why we received those questions, but we took the position of, we just want to get the right information out to the public. And so when I look at the motor vehicle taxes and the way that motor vehicle taxes are calculated in the state is they take an average of all the entities in a particular county, and that is the rate that is charged against motor vehicle property taxes. So it's a little bit different the way that properties are taxed. It gives you a really good snapshot of how the county compares against the other counties in the state. So when I look at the data that was supplied to me by the Kansas Department of Revenue, the average motor vehicle levy is about 106 mils. And again, that doesn't include the general levy of the school district, but it includes the average of every other entity in Leavenworth County. When I average out all 105 counties, it's 133. So Leavenworth County is significantly lower. And again, the same with last time, I ranked them from highest mill rate to lowest mill rate. There are 105 counties in the state of Kansas. Leavenworth County is 91 out of 105. I'm going to say that one more time. Leavenworth County is 91 out of 105, so significantly towards the bottom. Next slide. How are property taxes collected on a house? We first start with the appraised value. And as Senator Pittman mentioned earlier, that is set by the Leavenworth County Appraiser's Office. We multiply that by the assessment percentage. That assessment percentage is set in state statute, depending on what property type it is. And we get our assessed value. We multiply that by the mill rate, divide that by 1,000 to get the city portion of the tax bill. Next slide. The average home value in the city of Basehor is $375,000. When we multiply that by the assessment percentage for residential properties and do the math, as we indicated in the previous slide, we get the city portion of the tax bill. And again, the factor that's highlighted in yellow is the only factor that this governing body has control over in this property tax equation. And very thankful to Senator Pittman for hitting on that in his presentation. Next slide. Just as a reminder of the assessment percentages for the different types of properties, for residential properties, it's 11.5%. For commercial, it's 25. So more than double what the assessment percentage is for residential properties. And then for vacant lots is 12. Next slide. We took a look at what our percentage of appraised value is for commercial properties versus our neighbors in the county. The percentage of appraised value for commercial properties in Basehor is 3.29%. Lansing and Tonganoxie are just about double where we are. And then Leavenworth County is about 4 times where we are. I did take a look at full build out of the commercial projects that are happening in Basehor that are actively under construction. What impact would those have on the percentage of appraised value? And it's 0.5%. So you can see we feel that we're headed in the right direction, but you can see that we are very much behind the curve, and it takes a lot of commercial activity to really make up that ground. But again, I think that we're really headed in the right direction, and that is a testament to the priorities of this governing body. Next slide. A reminder of the property valuations. The assessed value for 2023 for the city of Basehor was about 111 million. For this year, it's 130 million with an increase in percentage of 17%. We saw some communication on social media, and we received some inquiries alleging that the property tax rate was increasing by 17%. That is not true. And property owners are not going to see on average an increase in 17% of their city portion of their tax bill. That 17% is made up of about 2% vacant lots, about 9% residential existing, a little over 4% residential new, about 1.5% for commercial existing, and then a little less than 0.25% for the commercial new. So that's the breakdown of where that 17.12% lies. Now, some folks may be paying a little bit more if their property value went up significantly. We're not trying to sugarcoat that or hide that from the community. But to say that the tax rate increased by 17% or that every home increased by 17% is absolutely not true. Next slide. So to that point, no increase to the tax rate, but property values have increased. What does that mean for property owners in the city limits of Basehor? It means on average, residential properties are going to increase about $12 per month. And for commercial properties, about $83 per month. Next slide. Some of the highlights of the 2024 budget: a flat mill rate, advancing all of the projects that we have happening in our community and the capital improvement plan, replacement of 2 police vehicles, contractual maintenance of all the trails and landscaping of the high traffic corridors that we're constructing. Again, we want to make sure that when we construct 155th Street and we construct Metro Green Trail and the Civic Campus trails, that we're thinking about the long-term maintenance and impact those have to our budget, and that this budget contemplates that. It includes a citizen satisfaction survey. That would be a 5-year refresh from our last time. And we really think that's a really good marker to measure what are the priorities of the community and are the projects that we have, for lack of a better term, in the hopper, support those priorities of the community. We do have adjustment to the salary schedule to keep pace with the market at 6%. That's the same percentage that we had last year in the 2023 budget. And then funding of the fireworks display with the Basehor Community Volunteers of $20,000. Next slide. This is a fund summary of the 2024 draft budget. We do have a line item proposed budget that's available on the city's website at the same place that you would look at the presentations. Historically, we have not put that out until the Friday before the public hearing. We really think that in an effort to be transparent and have all this information out for the community, that putting it out now is the best thing. So as folks prepare for the public hearing, if they would like to come and voice their concerns or voice their feedback, they absolutely have that information available to them. And again, historically, we've only put it out the Friday before the public hearing, which is what, 4 days, 5 days. Now we're at almost 2 weeks out. And so we just really feel like that's another layer of transparency that we're trying to bring to our public. Next slide. So just to summarize, the 2024 proposed budget contemplates a flat mill rate of 33.873 mils to support the established governing body priorities, while also helping mitigate the need for a mill rate increase in future years because of that reduced residential building permit activity that we've spoke about extensively in the budget process. We will also come back with a resolution of support of funding the local ad valorem tax reduction fund, and that will contemplate 100% of those funds going towards reducing the property tax rate for residents and businesses in Basehor if that were to be funded. Next slide. So this is meeting 7 of 8. It has been a very long budget process, but it's been a lot of great feedback from this governing body, a lot of community involvement. We really appreciate the feedback. We will have a very hefty agenda at the next meeting. We will have 3 public hearings. We will have a public hearing for the 2024 operating budget. We will have a public hearing for the revenue neutral rate. We will have a public hearing for the 2023 budget amendments. We will also have additional action items such as the formal adoption of the 5-year CIP or the capital improvement plan, the formal adoption of the city's position as it relates to the local ad valorem tax reduction fund, and then also adjustments to the salary schedule as included in the budget. So we will have several action items next month, and next meeting, and I just wanted to kind of have a precursor there. And again, I would just say thank you to this governing body for all of your feedback and support throughout this budget process. We're very proud of the community outreach that we've done and trying to get this information to the public. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Maddie?
One question, a couple comments probably. So the 2023 budget amendments, that's basically lining up what our actual expenses were and what they're projected to be. Any major differences there?
No, no major differences. And that's really a housekeeping item. It's something that we do usually in December,
Mhm.
but we thought if we're doing budget in August, why don't we just make everything align in August? And quite frankly, that's something that other cities and municipalities do. And so we just want to make sure that it stays on all the same schedule. The land purchase for BTC will be a budget amendment, but of course that was planned for. And we have more than enough fund balance to cover that. But you should expect no surprises.
Okay, and then a likely final one in December. I don't know how close the proposed budget has to be.
Yeah, we don't forecast to have to come back.
Okay.
If there is an extenuating circumstance that happens before the end of the year, we'll make sure to communicate that to the governing body and properly notice it for the public.
Perfect.
We forecast one set of budget amendments with this budget cycle and not having to come back at the end of the year.
And then thank you, a couple of those pieces of information I know I had asked for, so certainly appreciate it. And just want to note, I've kept track because I think a lot of us have an interest in decreasing the mill rate. We just don't see where that comes from. So we've talked about it at every meeting, 7 for 7 now, that there's some interest in that, but understand based on the situation and, you know, I'll take a look at the line item budget, but I think we've talked about a lot of the incremental expenses and they make sense for a growing city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Maples. And to that point, I think you'll see in the line item budget that right sizing that we've done, and not just applying a blanket percentage of increase, really going back through and evaluating several years of expenses to make sure that we're budgeting the appropriate amount. And I think that's really reflective in the line item budget. So thank you.
I'm gonna miss out on the fun, so. No, I don't.
So get in it now.
Do I?
Get in there.
I can't stir a pot right now, then not be here to enjoy it all the way through, so.
Ben? Sherry?
Kind of just following up a little bit with Councilmember Maples' comment. We looked at, considering if we could lower it and what that would affect and what positions we couldn't fill. I believe it was a police officer. And was the other one a
So-
grant?
Yeah, management analyst who is responsible for submitting grants for our city, and then a parks maintenance worker.
A
is-
parks maintenance. I apologize. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
And I know we've looked at ways to try and save in other areas, like with changing out the trash service to try and save people money. And then also with all the grants that have been received, which has been a team effort. And I know that you guys are working to try and look for any other cost savings that we can all think about and implement too. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, man. That's an awesome job.
Thank
And I like the way you've put everything out there, especially about the LAVTRF. It's needs to be out there because, that would help us tremendously. So thank you so much for getting that out in public.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to item number 2, GIS mapping.
Thank you, Mayor. Crystal Vale City Planning Director. I don't even know what my title is. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow Maddie's excellent presentation, but bear with me here. As each of you know, obviously, the city of Basel is continuing to grow. Our development services are continuing to grow. Basel is definitely headed in the right direction. As you probably also know, we do not currently have any sort of mapping software other than the ARC online mapping, which Cameron takes care of. She does an excellent job of doing it, but it does have its limitations. The county currently uses a system that you are all, many of you anyhow, I'm certain are very familiar with. And that is this online mapping system that I always refer to as Integrity. The difference between Integrity and the ARC online platform that we currently use is this type of mapping system has multiple layers that you can turn on and off. Layers are just information, right? Zoning, utility, road center lines, things of that nature. You can customize a system like this really to just the ends of the earth, depending upon what your needs may or may not be. One of the challenges that we and my department run into on a fairly regular basis is we have a static PDF map of our zoning. That map is subject to change, obviously, anytime that there is a zoning change. Currently, what happens is Cameron goes into that PDF and she draws a little box around the property once she can find the property on the map and recolors it a different color. And again, it's pretty cumbersome. It works. We're making it work and it's okay. But the difference between what we have now and a system like this is we would be able to take the ordinance that amended the zoning along with the actual legal description of the property. And then magic happens behind the scenes that I am not capable of describing. I just know that it happens. And then the next day, all of a sudden on your map, that piece of property, that specific piece of property, the exact piece of property is appropriately colored now. Again, you can also do things like a trash map. We have a lovely trash map. It only shows trash map data, right? So you can't look at that map and say, oh, my trash gets picked up on Tuesday and my zoning is R1. You have to consult a separate map to find what your zoning is. None of this is particular, this isn't the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but there is software out there that really can, I think, be beneficial to the city, to staff, to developers, to residents. I know that I use the Leavenworth County map on a daily basis, dozens and dozens of times. It hosts a lot of the information that we would also want to host. And again, there's magic that happens behind the scenes where we would coordinate with Leavenworth County in order to capture that data and bring it into our own web map, excuse me. And then we could add our own specific to the city of Basehor information onto our web map if the city council were interested in pursuing this, obviously. I do want to say that the Leavenworth County's GIS department has been just incredibly helpful to staff of late. Soma San especially has just, anytime I ask for anything, she just bends over backwards to help us out. And we are eternally grateful. However, again, with the amount of development that we have taking place, I think it would be beneficial for the city to have some sort of service that we could rely on more for ourselves. Now, that being said, there are several firms out there. I just point to the integrity mapping system because I think we're all very familiar with it, but there are others. They also offer consulting services where we don't necessarily have, we're not looking to hire a position or anything. This is purely a third-party consulting. They take care of all of that stuff behind the scenes. We just funnel them the data. We've had preliminary discussions with them about what that would look like. And we haven't done anything formal, obviously, because I wanted to get feedback from the city council on whether or not this is something that you would potentially be interested in pursuing for the city of Basehor.
Anybody have any questions, for Crystal, or comments? Vernon?
Yes, how would the third-party system integrate with Leavenworth County?
Well, I can answer that really at a pretty high level. There are 3 different ways that can happen, and essentially they're all software programs that get written. And if you think of it as almost like a portal, where we would store information, and then at the end of the day at midnight, that company would like portal into our system, get that data, take it back to wherever they do their things. This is not a very good example, is it? But then it would do, it's called Python. That's all I know. It would do whatever it needs to do to update, and our map would be refreshed by 8 a.m. the next morning.
Will that map be available at Leavenworth County?
Well, it would be available exactly like this map here is available. It'd be available online to anybody who wanted to access it. So yes.
You guys are looking at me like I have a question. So why go with the third party if Leavenworth County has what we need?
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood your question, Councilmember Fields. So Leavenworth County hosts some information like subdivisions and property ownerships, but they don't host like our zoning. They don't host, again, I keep going back to the trash map, but that's a really, that's a big thing, right? They don't host information like that. Because that's our information. It's specific to the city of Basehor. So we do that on kind of those static, not static, the ARC Online is kind of interactive, but single service maps.
Right. So my question, drilling down a little bit more, will Leavenworth County be able to look at our maps? Will the GIS people in Leavenworth County be able to access the information that we're putting on our maps to integrate into their maps? What I'm concerned about is 2 competing systems. One that's Leavenworth County that's meeting just about everything we need. And then Leavenworth County will come to us and ask us for information and we give it to them. Or does it automatically get integrated into Leavenworth County to where they can do what we're doing, which is we go to Leavenworth County map now, we can say, okay, this is this, this is that. They don't have the R1s, the things like that identified, but I don't want us to have 2 competing systems is what I'm concerned about.
Let me ask this in a different manner. I understand what you're saying, that the public will be able to use it, you'll be able to use it, correct?
Mhm.
Will they contradict one another? I think that's more specifically what.
They should not. And
So if I look on Leavenworth County's map at whatever it is that they do provide, and I pull the same thing up on this system, are they going to be the same?
Yes, so like a
Yes.
property
They
line.
won't integrate into one another, but they also won't contradict one another.
Correct.
Okay, so that would.
So I was looking at the integration piece. Yeah, not so much the contradiction piece. But if we're, it doesn't make sense to have two maps of days. One that the county's using, for making whatever decisions they need to make. And then one for our decision for whatever reason we need to make. And will they be able to look in to our maps and see what we have? So I hear you saying contradictions, and I'm saying integration.
So Councilmember Fields, if I might, that is a really excellent point, and that's really, and we really appreciate that feedback. That's really kind of where our conversation regarding interactive GIS mapping started, was really from a place of Leavenworth County not only has this excellent technology, but they have really professional staff. I mean, their director is a PhD in GIS mapping. I don't know that you can get any better than that. So with that understanding and kind of getting the feedback from the governing body, I think that gives staff what we need. And certainly Commissioner Smith is hearing this conversation, but ultimately it would be our preference as a city, even if we could pay Leavenworth County to host our information and be able to send data back to us, and that would integrate all of our community's needs. I think, as I understand it, some of the concern from the county, because we've approached them on a number of occasions and they've been very gracious and have provided us a lot of assistance and support, but their long-term concern is we're not doing that for all of the cities. And, of course, selfishly, my argument is we'll have the asked and we're willing to pay. So, we certainly wouldn't expect the county to do that for free, but if that's something that this governing body is interested in exploring, staff agrees with that as well. And it would certainly be a more seamless integration for the public if we could find a way to really merge those services together. So I think that gives us the feedback that we need.
And I agree. Instead of having a third party, maybe build the county, because then it's the exact same system that we're using. It's just, it's tweaking it. But if they already have not just the bare bones, but to have the level of expertise that's there. And if we bring in a third party, you bring in third parties, there's hiccups that can happen. And if we're trying to get real specificity for City of Basel, and we're trying to integrate, not conflict, but integrate it with Leavenworth County, maybe that might be one of the routes we might want to look at doing, is instead of bringing a third party, whatever, the cost always has to be considered, but the cost of Leavenworth County doing that for us. Again, as you said, you've been talking about this for a while, and I just don't want us to have, two competing systems when we could just go with just one and then have it, see if they can tweak piece that we need to have tweaked.
Crystal, to confirm, Integrity is a third-party system that Leavenworth is using, so they have a lot of that in-house knowledge. So there potentially be synergies if we use the same platform, even if we can't pursue an internal agreement.
Yes, and we did speak a little bit about that, and yes, there would be definitely some piggybacking is the way that they described it, yes. And certainly, yes, Councilmember Fields, I think that's a great idea, something we have certainly talked about internally, and we're more than happy to.
And in the real world, not in the real world, in the ideal world, we make everything work. We know that, as the city administrator mentioned, there are some things you have to go through and all the other stuff. So I'm just looking at things from an ideal world.
Well, we're very fortunate that we have a very good working relationship with Leavenworth County, and I think it's just another opportunity for partnership, and really it's a great way to provide helpful and useful information to the public, whether they live in Basel or have a business in Basel or just interested in Basel. So it's great feedback.
Ironically, STP, we will use Leavenworth GIS.
Anybody else?
Yes, I guess a good question. I think it sounds like it would be a useful tool, and so I'm interested in getting a little more information about it. And so I'd be curious to see what the pricing and contracts might look like. But then from Vernon's question of if there's a way to partner with Leavenworth County, if that's, a license or number of seats thing where we could add one to help provide some of that data, but not have to have a whole separate installation, because they do have some of the baser property information, just not all the layers that we might be interested in. So I'd like to pursue that option if possible. And then one of the things I was thinking about is if there's any way to quantify the benefits and estimated time or cost savings from having this level of tool, just from not having to go back and forth to different maps that you're modifying more manually. Just in light of the previous conversation, right? Making sure we're conscious of the fiscal impacts. It's a good tool.
I love it. It's my favorite.
Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 3, PFP 003-23, final plat, 1 lot subdivision, Night Ski Estate at Falcon Lakes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was heard by the Planning Commission last night. It is simply for a one lot replat of an existing lot. Mr. Nitsky has been maintaining approximately 1/4 of an acre of land that was actually owned by the golf course. After they discovered that, they resurveyed the land and he just wanted to incorporate that into his existing lot. He's not proposing any new buildings. There are obviously no additional entrances being proposed on this property. This is simply just increasing his side lot line. There will be the dedication of a 7.5 foot sewer easement along the southern lot line, which is why this is before you, because on the 26th, I'll bring this forward for this body to accept that easement. The Planning Commission, of course, recommended or approved the plat as it is. Any questions?
Questions for anybody?
So not when I originally looked at it, but as you talked about it, sorry, dragging us out here, but that acceptance of the easement is a process that we went through recently, and having that easement in place before any other changes are requested is, I think, probably beneficial to have. Okay. And then could this be consent agenda? Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Any more questions? Number 4, when we were looking for adjournment of the work session.
So Mayor, I move we adjourn work session.
Motion to hear a second.
Second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote. Moving on to the land bank meeting, selection of board chairperson, vice chairperson, and treasurer as required by KSA 12-5904.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Baser Land Bank, as you know, was established by ordinance in 2021, and state statute requires the Board of Trustees to select, as you mentioned, a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a treasurer annually at its meeting. And so that's the purpose, really the only purpose of tonight's meeting with the Land Bank is for you all to discuss and select who you all would like to serve in those positions for the next year. And just very generally, the chairperson presides over the Land Bank meetings. We don't really have a set schedule of how often the land bank meets. So in a given year, that could be once just to select those appointees, or it could be more than that if there's business of that body. Then the vice chairperson would step in for the chair in the chairperson's absence. And then the treasurer generally provides reporting back to the board on any financial information provided to it over the last year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions and turn it all back over to you all for discussion.
I'll open up for discussion. Anybody have any questions from?
There's an annual process to appoint. Currently, the plan has been to appoint the city council as the members of the land bank. Could this be aligned timing wise with that, or based on the statutory timing, we can't line up the windows?
Well, you all established by ordinance that the city council would sit in as the board of trustees. So that's already been done.
Okay, it doesn't have to be repeated.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. And then the other thing I was wondering about is timing along with elections, right? If we select someone and then they're not elected, are they automatically not on the land bank based on that other ordinance?
Based upon the language in the ordinance, you're correct. It says the land bank will be guided in its affairs by the city council members as the board of trustees.
Okay.
So that would be automatic. So we can certainly, I don't know if this is your question, but we can defer it to later in the year if that is your desire of the board, or we can handle it tonight and then calendar it in future years for later in the year.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's like a term of, a length of term for that appointment so that then it could line up in the future. We probably need something now to maintain
Right.
some positions there, but
It's a good point.
Anybody else got any questions?
and fear to mention those, 'cause I'm open to assisting as needed, but if, you know, I'm on the ballot in November and something turns over, don't want you to have to repeat the process in December just for that. No. It's not my tab.
So we're saying this is something we should be postponing at this point? Is that what you're saying?
I
think-
sounds like we should do it now and then consider if we want to start doing this.
Okay.
in February of each year. When
Thank you.
November's here.
Just check. So how's this work? Do we, so I would nominate Ty because you naturally do this, so do you just literally as stated? I would,
Nominations of yourselves.
I mean, should we have discussion first or?
You're the one saying.
This is our first meeting. I'm not sure how to run this. I guess thoughts from all of you.
Well, I assume the position of treasurer that would do a financial report that individual selected and voted on would work with city staff to get numbers before meetings to create, to present correct data. And then whenever land bank meetings are held, I assume the chairperson would lead in some format about any discussion. Vice chairman or person, if the other individual is absent that day.
Correct. Or otherwise have a conflict or the case of the top, yes, but then leave the meeting the vice chair would.
My thought process is simply Ty literally does this stuff for a living on a daily basis. In my opinion, there's nobody better to put at the helm of this as the board chairperson than Ty, in my opinion.
I would accept.
I would agree with Ben.
Do we need an actual vote on that then?
We vote on a slate after we've discussed.
I would recommend voting on it
Okay,
because the board as a body is supposed to select the person.
You have to lead discussion after that.
Let's vote on a slate then. Let's do it all at once.
Who's supposed to be chairing this meeting?
That's a great question. You currently don't have people in these positions, so this will be the first time. So Mayor, if you'd like to, you are the designated advisor under the ordinance. You're the advisor to the land bank board. So if you want
so
to take this,
we have one nomination. Do I need to see if we have another nomination then?
sure.
Okay, is there anybody else? What's the nomination? Anybody else?
It's one of the board chair people.
Chair?
That's for chairperson. I wanted that too, but it sounds like officially advisor.
Yeah, I think it's counts.
Well, it's 3 out of the 5 of us. that
Yeah.
hold up their hands real quick.
What now?
It's 3 out of the 5 of us are getting a position, so.
No, you're saying vote on each position individually.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll call for a vote for chairperson.
Okay.
And the one that's been nominated is Ty, so I'll call for the vote. Vernon? Aye. Sherry?
I,
Aye.
Hey,
You can.
I don't vote, right?
You are a member of the board of trustees, so you-
I'll go with aye. It's your meeting, buddy. Take over.
Effective next meeting. Okay, I didn't expect any of this tonight. Vice chair. Does anybody have a recommendation or suggestion for vice chair? And the mayor's already on as
advisor.
the advisor.
yes,
Oh.
by ordinance, the advisor, there's nothing that I can see in here that would prohibit him from serving in an additional position. on this board, so you could certainly nominate.
I mean, my opinion, just to tell it, but I think it'd be better if I'm just the advisor sitting in on it than not be part of this.
Okay.
So I think it should be the other two of the people from the council.
Everything takes a quorum on this, so to me, it's really, does anybody have a strong interest, want to?
Yeah.
Be involved in this part, or?
Yeah, again, I'm open to assist as needed and I'm open to.
I'd
either.
be interested in the treasurer position unless someone else wants it.
No, sure. I can do vice chair.
Support.
You're comfortable with,
You want vice
I
chair?
would accept the nomination for vice chair.
Very well.
Do I have a motion for?
Well, you know, and I'm thinking that whole thing, you know.
And you're-
I came so close to saying, I already got enough committee assignments that we don't know when this is gonna meet. I've got 2 more calls, one from the county this week to be on another committee, so it's like, I need to be supportive. I need to be that cheerleader.
You're an advocate.
So I'll nominate
Okay.
Hayden as the vice chairperson and Sherry as the treasurer. Or do you need them separate?
Please, separate,
Okay,
please.
we'll do right now for vice chairperson, I nominate Hayden.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have to go one by one, or can I ask like?
Vernon?
What? We have a motion and
Oh, yeah.
second for Hayden as vice chair.
So are we voting?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself, aye.
Thank you.
Welcome into your new position.
And do we have a motion for the treasurer?
I would move to nominate Sherry as treasurer.
We have a
Second.
motion and we have a second. Any discussion? Vernon?
No discussion.
No, no.
That was the question, right? Okay, so
If you're in favor. The motion for Sherry as treasurer, your vote is
yes.
Sherry. Oh, you, Ben?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Okay. Hey,
That went
I
smoothly.
got a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Great.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We got there. Ranges meeting.
Great job.
When's the next meeting?
2024.
Surprise.
124.